And welcome back to Foreign Friday. Tom, you and I are going to do it first. We're going to go off to Happy Valley in Hong Kong. Should be a lot of fun. I've never done that before, and handicap there. And the pictures of the track are pretty amazing with all those tall buildings around the track. You haven't had a chance to Google it.
It's an old track.
Mm.
It's based on, 1880s. So it's been around for a few years.
A little bit younger than Terry, but otherwise pretty old.
For sure. Yeah, slightly.
Yeah, slightly younger than Terry. We've been a little bit on a roll. We had a $78 winner last week between us. We had a $100 winner the week before. Think you see anything like that on the card this week, Thomas?
It's Hong Kong.
That means anything can happen, right?
I mean, we could be really chalky, or it could be some wild. And I think there's two races in here that it could be pretty wild.
Well, I just remember when I hit the first time in Hong Kong, I was all happy. $1,500 trifecta with the currency ratio. It ended up being like $108. And anyway, I think I owed him money afterwards. Coming up next Friday, we're going to have the Breeders' Cup here in the United States on Friday and Saturday. Of course, the Breeders' Cup picks will be available over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet. You see that right there. There is a link in the description below. You can always find free picks there, so head on over there. Tom and I, sometime on Wednesday, we haven't finalized the date yet. We will be previewing the record number of international entries to this year's Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. Tom, how many of them are there?
Right now, there are 80.
Yeesh, that's a lot of horses to preview. Well,
that's 20 more than last year. So it went from 60 to 80.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
And we'll be previewing them all of them, and that's really.
We should point out 19 of them are coming from Japan.
And it is the foundation of Foreign Fridays too, because we wanted to make sure we were up to speed on horses that were running elsewhere in the world that might find their way to the Breeders' Cup. Isn't that right, Tom?
That's the goal. Try to pick those winners. Who's got the best form, and there, of course, we found some prices in the past. So.
Well, hopefully we can do it again. When the show is over for today, sometime tomorrow, tonight, I will post a recap of the show with all of our comments, because I think these races are running not tonight, but kind of like midnight tomorrow night. Is that about right? They'll start around there, Tom, on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's the afternoon. So, which is, Happy Valley usually only runs on Wednesdays, but every once in a while they run them on Sunday.
And if we continue to get these $70 winners and $100 winners, folks, you got to go over to HRT gear on the horseracingtoday.net website. Get yourself some Horse Racing Today gear so you can look fantastic no matter where you are in the world. All right, Thomas. Well, I know where we are going. We're going to the Shenzhen Handicap for race number 1. This one is
number 6.
Race number 6. Our race number 1, yes. I got it right over here. Race number 6 on the screen. This one is on the turf course. It's 1,800 meters. You look at the course over here.
Well, since they don't have any other thing than a turf course.
Right, well, does it look like it says there's an Equitrack in there? I don't know.
No, there's no. That's SHENZHEN has an all weather. There's this is strictly a turf course.
So it looks to me like, according to this, wrong screen, wrong button. Hold on, folks. They're going to start here. So let's go over here. They're going to start here. They're going to run this way, and they come back around, and then they're going to. So this is basically it's a 2-turn race, Thomas. A little bit more than 1 lap around the track. Again, this is new for me. You've done Happy Valley before. What kind of horses typically win these races?
For the longer ones, the pace generally doesn't hold up, and we see them get run over with, they'll take them wide, and it's really depends on their placement when they come into that turn, because it is a unique turn.
Yeah,
and very sharp and when they come into that back stretch. It's a bit sharp.
Isn't it banked too a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little banking too.
So you can come running down that hill maybe and catch a little bit momentum.
Yeah, it can be interesting, but I would say the far turn is more sweeping. And so when they hit the stretch at that top of the stretch, it's usually those horses who've got some late legs are going to be coming wide, and they're going to be coming through.
So let's look at the race 6. Forgive me, I keep messing up. Here's our speed chart. Arthur's Kingdom is in very good form, and since he started to go forward, so that's the one that should be on the lead. Just looking at this race shape here, the projected race shape with all the horses, and this can, of course, be found at racing.hkjc.com. It's the Hong Kong Jockey Club. You can look that up in Google. There's a lot of good information there, including some free past performances, which I use to do my handicapping today. You get a sense of this, Tom. Arthur's Kingdom could be a lone E. Any chance that one made it into your picks?
No.
No. All right, well.
Not at all. I went to start with number 7, Charity Gain. He ran second start, overcame really a bad post position, being on the outside, and had some trouble in that race, and definitely came off the pace very strongly. I think that adding the distance and a better post position, he'll be nicely set up for a nice run. Number 6, Dragon Star is going to be my next choice. I tossed the last race out. He had too many issues in that race, and was on the all-weather, which he's done okay in the past, but the issues were just too much. Returning to Happy Valley, he had a much better effort the last out. 2 out, and that was ran second. He tracked the leaders in that race and just didn't have enough to beat the winner. I think he'll run better today, and I think he runs better at Happy Valley. And finally, going to take Me Time, which is number 11. These last 2 races, he's been showing improvement after the break. He had some traffic problems in that last race, but still was able to. He was, by the chart guy, he said he's finishing the best of all the horses. So I like that trend, and that's why I'm going to put him for 3rd.
Well, you said absolutely not. You laughed. So, well, I don't know if that's good or bad for me, but I'm going to start with Arthur's Kingdom in here. It is the lone speed horse. I know you said speed gets run over, but sometimes lone speed doesn't get run over because they can set reasonable fractions. And he's potentially a horse for the Happy Valley course. He's got 3 wins in 8 races there. He's raced at other tracks 27 times. Just 1 win. Absolutely the definition of a horse for the course in my book. Number 9, Jubilation. It gets the next call from me. This one has a pretty solid first up record and has a pretty versatile running style. When you look at the way this field lays out, I know on the screen you saw it kind of lined up in order, but there's really, I think, more heavily weighted towards closers. So I think those horses that are mid-pack that get good positioning and maybe reasonable fractions could have plenty left at the end of the race. Number 6. Do we agree on anything so far? Dragon Star. Number 6. All right, Dragon Star. This is another one of those horses I think will be mid-pack. And if it catches the right fractions, I feel like it could close them out. And then finally, number 3, SHENZHEN is my final selection. It was a tough call for me over the 4 Intrepid Winner, but has a better record at the track and at the distance. And I should note, Thomas, that right now the footing is listed as good. Unfortunately, I was ready to go press the button for the predictor, but guess what they don't have?
No. They got a lot of other information, but not a predictor.
No predictor. Well, we should petition them to put a predictor in there. This one is race number 7, the KWANGTUNG Handicap. This one's going to be 1,000 meters. You can see on here they're going to start over here, but we'll come over here. We're going to start back in this corner over here. It looks like more like 975 meters. Going to come around a little goofy turn, but they should have a pretty straight run into the track there, into that turn. Do you want to be inside of this turn, or do you want to be like middle so you can use that banking to build some momentum and come downhill?
Yeah, generally they're going to be coming from the middle of the pack to pick up the money, so to speak.
So if we look at the speed map here, again, this one's perfectly balanced. This looks like your middle of the pack horses in here with Ma Comet and Victory 33 as the 2 that are likely to go forward. In the back, Racing Race and Sight Happy, along with Bulb Emperor and Super 60 could be coming from off the back. So Tom says, looking here, Tom, which ones did you pick?
I started with number 4, Grand Nova. Has 4 career starts. He looked awful in his first 2, and then he came alive in the next 2. He ran second, and then he won. He's a mid-pack type, and he's closing the wind. I think the inside post being on the rail is not ideal for him, but a good break and sit in the right position, I think he can get the job done. I'm going to go with number 10. Happy Tango is my next choice. He's definitely the most experienced runner in this race. He has 64 starts. He wanted lower levels. He's moved up and ran a poor race at this level and then got a little better. He's also pretty good on the all-weather, but back and forth, they, seem to be more of a jog around the track than really any effort in that race. So last time he dropped back, and I think dropping back in distance is going to help. The post position is good, and he's good for getting in the money, and he's done that certainly before. If you've been running 64 times, you're going to hit the board occasionally.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and 12, Ruby Sailing will be my final choice. In 14 starts, he hasn't won. He's run second or third 6 times. He's only ran once here at Happy Valley and ran third. He's switching back in distance a little bit. I think that'll help. And the post position is much better. Just needs to get the trip.
Well, in addition to that, I have Ruby Sailing as my top pick, Tom, and he's run first up races 3 times and finished second. So I should probably put him second, but I feel like an open race. If you're second, you just need to beat one to be first. Speaking of second, I put Happy Tango, number 10, into the second spot. There's another one that's pretty effective when he comes off the bench, and he's also been effective at Happy Valley and at today's distance. Number 2, Ma Comet is my third pick. And looking at Ma Comet, did something happen here? Did something change? Did they have a jockey change on this one? I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, I see. Yeah. I just was looking at the trainer column there, right? I was going to say the one thing about doing these shows, Tom, that I know who Zach Purton is.
Yeah.
I didn't know before that. And I do know that when you're betting Hong Kong, there's a jockey that you better look at all the time, and his name is?
Zach Purton.
Indeed. So top jockey is riding that horse. I think got a good chance. And then finally, number 6, Bulb Emperor. That one is the only class dropper in the field with a chance to perhaps be better in its second up outing. Let's move forward to race number 8 because we're doing 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Race number 8 is the ZHAOQING handicap. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. 1,200 meters. You can see here on this little graph, they're going to start in the back and then make their way up. So 1,200 meters right there. This little skinny straightaway, and then another, looks like abrupt turn right there, Tom.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yes, it can be an interesting turn for some horses.
So would you want to be on the inside in this case? That way you get
ideally the inside is where you want to be.
So inside positioning to get to that turn, and then from there, save some legs to come down and around. Now, a lot of these European tracks that we do have, maybe some of the Australian tracks too, but probably not as prevalent, have these weird undulations, uphill, downhill, valleys, peaks. Is the same thing at Happy Valley, or is that a little bit more flat like what we see here?
It's more flat. It's more of a flat. So, it's got the turns, but the turns are a little banked, but it's really, they tend to run, you'll see 5 wide, but you're going to see 5 wide when they hit the top of the stretch. And, you still got a bit of ground to cover before you hit that finish.
And it looks like a pretty long front stretch there. So the turns are banked a little bit like Belmont then?
Yeah,
like that?
Well, yes, but they're slight. It's more, I'd say gradual. I can't come up with the right word, but
graded maybe.
And when you watch the races, because it's mainly when I watch them, of course, these are run at night.
Yeah, insomnia racing for sure.
And under the lights, it's a kind of a different track than when it's daylight, so to speak. So and I haven't seen it in the daylight in a couple of years. So it'll be interesting when I watch these races.
And it'll be middle of the night for us here. Looks like a lot of speed in this particular race, Tom. So you're going to want to get forward. You want to get pressed up to that lead, get good positioning. So who's going to have the #1 position in the winner's enclosure, in your opinion?
I'm going to take number 3, Bright Day, as my top choice. So it'll be his first start in Hong Kong. I like, and usually I don't play first starters, but the preps have been very good. He's got 3 trials. He's won 2 of them and looked good in the other one too. His prior races are in Macau. We're in Macau, and Macau no longer is horse racing. He shut that down, and he's performed well there. I think this level he's suited for, and I think putting him at this distance to start out is really positive. And again, look at the comments in the on the speed area. If you go down, you'll see the comments. And with those comments, he has. It seems to be that he's ready for a good effort, so that's why I put him on top.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with, and then I'm going to go to number 2, Celestial Colors, my next choice. Run 2 good efforts. One was at Shenzhen. He finished second. He was third, and then he had a third run. He returns to Happey Valley, where he's won once here, and I don't know. Yeah, I looked at the rest of the field, and I think he can get in the money based on his last couple of efforts. And finally, I'm going to take number 10, Righteous Iron, is my final choice. I've been running 4th in the last 3 races at this level. He's going to be in the rear of the field, which is where he generally runs, and I think he's going to be up for some money. And this race is an odd race because we got a lot of firsters who've never run at Hong Kong in here, and then we have some that are not in form. So it's a mixed bag, and I think maybe just pick up something in the end here with that number 10.
That's where prices can be had. And the interesting thing about handicapping here is you're not in any way, shape, or form influenced by the morning line odds, because there are none, at least none of the data that I was using.
No, there's generally
just straight up doing your own homework. All right, well, I mentioned in the last race that Zach Purton, the top jockey there, and he's riding my top pick here, Romantic Sun. This one smashed the competition in its Australian debut, putting the top jockey on there after a dominating win. In poker, they call that a tell, Thomas. Number 10, Righteous Arion. You have that one. I have that one. A little bit of agreement right there. Looking at Righteous Arion, that one has its best efforts on a good surface. You look at any other surface, not as strong. And as you mentioned, Tom, the horse is always kind of close at the end, but even closer when it runs at this level. I think it's actually taken a little step down in this race. Mega bonus. I'm all over the 12 horses in this couple of days here, Tom, this day at Happey Valley. Best races by far have been on a good surface. Every other one looks like it struggles, and it's going to drop in class today. So that's perhaps the edge that one needs. And finally, you mentioned horses coming from all over the place. Well, one of them in here has done particularly well at Happey Valley. That's Reward Smile. It's raced there 10 times, finished first, second, or third in those 7 times in those 10 races, and also coming down a touch in class. Next up for us is race number 9. Tom, 2 races to go. Again, let me put the right number up in here. So when I put the timestamp, when the show's over, I'll come back. I'll timestamp every race, so you can come back in the YouTube description and review every race if you want to see what Tom had to say, I had to say. When the races are over, you can review it, and you can either laugh really hard, or you can say, hey, those 2 got something right on that one. Back to 1,000 meters in this race. And they're going to start over here. They got a little bit of work to do to get to that turn right there. So I'd imagine that a little bit of tactical speed to get the proper positioning is the way to go. Save a little bit so you don't get run over at the end, Tom. I think that summarizes it well, right?
That's the way I look at it. Yep. When I watch these races, and if you do watch the races, there are some good commentary and some paddock information that can be very helpful in either making a good bet, or sometimes getting off a horse that doesn't really look great.
Getting off the vulnerable favorites. We mentioned middle of the pack for race number 9. Really only one, all Greek to me, going to go out. You're going to have plenty of horses in the middle to the back. could make for some traffic issues, especially around that corner, that turn. So getting good position would probably be hugely important in here as they come into that turn and head for home. Down the stretch they come, Thomas. Who's the announcer going to call as the winner?
Number 10, Horsepower.
Good name for the
horse to win a race. Another one, firster in Hong Kong. He comes into the race with 4 barrier trials. He's won 2 of them, and including the last one he ran in, and he placed in the other 2. He ran second in those other 2. He has 2 wins in Australia, and I think he's an interesting prospect. Number 4, Red Elegance is going to be my next choice. He's won twice at Happy Valley. He's placed 5 times in other races and 6 starts at Happy Valley. So it's really kind of consistent here. He likes the distance, and I think he'll be the favorite. And finally, number 1, Flying High, will be my final one. Last time out, there was a comment on there. He was held in restraint in the last race, and he looked and settled more towards the back of the field, and then showed some promise and ran 6th. He's won at SHENZHEN, but he's never won at Happy Valley in his 3 starts. So that's why I'm placing him to run on the money, because I think he may have a nice little run here.
We mentioned that Tom was talking a little bit about comments and all that stuff. You see right here on this Hong Kong Jockey Club website, download race form for all races or this particular race. It's probably the best data you're going to get available. So make sure if that's what you want to do, a little bit of your own handicapping, kind of look at what Tom says, what I say, what you look through, and perhaps between all of us come up with a winner. If you have any winners.
Can we show one other thing that would be useful?
Yeah, no problem.
You know where you've been pulling up the speed maps?
Right up here, yes, sir.
Yeah, go pull that up and pick the first, I think it's the first choice.
Track video?
No, it's go down. Heck, I can't.
So we have track work, past incidents extract, form line report, exceptional factors, veterinary records.
Pull it up on mine and I'll tell you where it is.
Race day focus. There's a lot of information up in here.
You're going to go to the form guide, which is the Speed Pro.
Speed Pro, yes, sir. Right there.
You're in that, right? And then if you're in the first piece of that, there's the speed map, but the first one is the form guide. We want to go to the form guide.
Form guide up here. Okay, there we go.
And in there is very useful information about each of these races. And if you're wondering where I was getting some of those comments in the first time starters, you'll see the speed map on top, but you'll have the comments in going below. And the ones that have never started in Hong Kong, they will have a blurb in there about the horse. And so what it had done in elsewhere, and then also, of course, here. But if you're looking for information in that way of how the race may have looked and with times and the whole bit, the other thing to note is they do mark in those comments is where position where the horse is. So 1 wide, 2 wide, 3 wide, 5 wide, whatever. So that can be helpful. And Perfect. You do get the odds here what they went off in that past race.
But we don't get the odds on this race, unfortunately.
No.
I am going to go in. Hopefully I'm in the right race number 9. I am, as we opened up some new data. Again, a lot of good information on that Hong Kong Jockey Club website. Head on over there to do your handicapping, read your comments, and then hopefully when you have a little bit of insomnia Saturday night, Sunday morning, you can make a little bit of money. When you go to sleep, you'll feel a little bit better.
Or you can make your bets and go to sleep and find out in the morning.
That's always kind of fun too. That's usually what I do, because the races are like 3 in the morning, and I wake up and then I look at it blurry-eyed in my iPhone. But I'm going to start off with Red Elegance as my first selection. Red Elegance, this one is a fan of the track and the distance, has run it 3 times, has a couple of wins and a second. That's a pretty solid record out of 3. 2 of the 3 wins came in the first race after a layoff. Guess what today is? First day after a layoff. All of the W's that this horse has had is on a good track. So many of the dots connecting or the boxes being checked, as our friend Terry likes to say. Horsepower is a horse that you and I have in common, Tom. That's my second choice. This is an Australian class dropper. And there's that main man again, Zach Purton, riding those foreign horses. So I think someone's whispering in his ear, these horses coming from
Well, he is Australian, so let's keep that in mind.
And he would know that too, right? A little bit of a inside information, right? Would get Martha Stewart arrested, but puts him in the winner's circle. Number 9, Happey United is another where all of his best form has been at Happy Valley on a good track and at today's distance. So proper. And then finally, number 8, Bunta Baby. An interesting name right there. This one is unbeaten in a pair of races. And as an Australian handicapper mentioned in his handicapping review of a horse, you just don't know how good a horse is until it loses. Well, we'll find out the answer to that question with Bunta Baby sometime early Sunday morning. Final race for you and I this week. Again, next week, there will not be a Foreign Friday. There will be a Foreign Wednesday, Mr. Thomas, for our preview of the 80 international horses making their way to Southern California for the 2024 version of the Breeders' Cup. We will have our wagering guide and all that stuff available over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet as soon as the past performances come out. I'll get to working on it. I'm also going to work on it with Terry, a supplemental wagering guide. I don't want to call it a guide, but sort of a wagering guide with rolling pick threes, a strategy that James Quinn in his book, The Complete Handicapper, says he's used for the Breeders' Cup to come out profitable. We'll see if indeed it works for us as well. And then, of course, all of our picks and all that stuff available on Guaranteed Tip Sheet starting next week. The race is running on Friday and Saturday. Huge pools. You have to be as a horse bettor. The Breeders' Cup. Would you say, Tom, like the Kentucky Derby is like the one where like all the casual fans come in, and the Breeders' Cup is the one like where the horse racing, like the true, I don't know what you want to call them, but the blue-blooded betting types focus more on the Breeders' Cup than they do on the Triple Crown races?
I would say that's probably true, but I would preface that by saying because of the number of Japanese enters in here, we are going to see some huge pools.
And because they're going to be a little bit biased in their selections, it could create a lot of value in their horses. Yes.
Yeah, so you do need to be, besides being aware of those horses, see where the money's going.
Well, our money is on the final race, the Guangzhou Handicap. Another one of those 1,200-meter races that's going to start back here with that funky turn. What's that?
It's Guangzhou.
Guangzhou. My Chinese.
I've been there. So
I know you. That's what I have. You help me with these pronunciations, Tom.
Well, I'm not good at all, many of them, but that one I do know because I have been there a couple times. So
we got that correct, and I'll still screw it up next time. But nonetheless, I won't screw up where they're going to run. They're going to come into this turn, come around that bank as we've talked about before. Good positioning with that funky turn to get them started. And then from there, that sprint home. So you better have some stamina, Tom. Who will have the most of it when they wave the checkered flag?
I'm going to start with number 5, Lucky Encounter. He's finished well in his last race, running 6th, and he was very wide, 5+ wide. And a lot of that race he was wide. It was his first start of the season. Today is his first start at Happy Valley. He's won 5 times in the past, and likes it. He's won only at this distance. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes his run at Happy Valley. I obviously think he can do it. Number 8, Dancing Code is going to be my next choice. He's run 14 times in Hong Kong, but he's only won twice. And both those races were at Happy Valley. He's one of these horses that likes to be taken back and then shifts around, and then he makes a late run. He's shot 10. He's okay. He seems to be a little better at Happy Valley. And finally, I'm going to take number 1, Co-Partner Prance is my final choice. This is a horse that loves Happy Valley. Got 6 starts and 5 wins and a third. He ran twice before this race, coming back to over at Shot 10, and then he's coming back over here. He gets an inside post. He gets a top jock. You figure it out.
Figure out the odds would probably be pretty low, right?
I would be very surprised if they were if they were 2-1. I'd be absolutely amazed.
Well, I have that one too, but I have a second. I'm going to go with the 8-horse Dancing Code as the top choice for me. This one is run at the track in the distance 2 times. Thomas, you know how many times he's found the winner's enclosure?
20 times.
20 out of 2, correct. 10 times your money. Number 1, the co-partner Prance. You mentioned Zach Purton riding that one. Going to probably be the big favorite. It's also been dominant at the track and the distance, and pretty much been most dominant on good footing. Raging Blizzard. I don't probably get too many of them in Happy Valley, but nonetheless, the one here in the United States,
none.
where Penn State plays, they get some Raging Blizzards, but not in that Happy Valley. Good footing is the way here, too, for Raging Blizzard. 7 times out, 4 wins in a second. The other 2 times the horse got good footing and finished 4th. So good chance that one will show up in the money. And finally, Beauty Charge, the final pick before we head off to our Wednesday International Breeders' Cup Invader preview. This one's run at the track and distance 4 times, hit the board 4 times. So I have it running 4, so this might be the first time it doesn't hit that board. Again, a little bit later on today, probably not today because I have a lot to do when we get done out of here today, but sometime tomorrow, I will post all of our picks along with the replay of the show over at horseracingtoday.net. You can head on over there. You'll get Tom's comments, my comments, a replay of the show in the YouTube description. I'll also timestamp so you can come back and watch each race individually to make sure you do not miss our pick shows on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, usually and Friday with Tom. Make sure you subscribe. You see it down there now in blue. We're getting fancy around here. We have a little bit of colors to go along with our fonts. So subscribe at Horse Race, the number 2 day on Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the different social media sites. And subscribe while you're on YouTube with the Horse Racing Radar TV channel. Hit that subscribe button. Give us thumbs up. Give us likes. Share our content. We won't get mad. Any final thoughts from you, Tom, before we get out of here?
Well, as I like to say with Hong Kong, good luck. As this is full fields are generally the rule, and they are some very tricky races. And a couple we did today, I think, are really tricky with the first time Hong Kong runners and some with limited experience.
And I'll also add to that, when you see the payouts $1,300, don't get too excited because it's going to be like $8.40 after the currency conversion. So you need to see like a couple of commas to come home a big winner. All right, folks, no matter what you're doing, until we get back together again for 4 and Friday on Wednesday night to preview all of the international entries into the Breeders' Cup, we certainly hope that all your endeavors, your life's goals, everything, get God's grace, God's favor, and in Hong Kong, end up in the
winner's enclosure.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend.